She hid the Alpha King's daughter for 8 years, until the child called him father. Chapter 1. 8 years earlier. Leora Vale knew exactly what the people thought when they looked at her. Nothing. Most days, people looked straight through her, like she wasn't there, like she was part of the furniture. Just another servant. Just another Omega. Just another girl born with nothing. Leora had gotten used to it. At least that's what she told herself. She balanced a tray of glasses and crossed the crowded ballroom. Music filled the air. Nobles laughed. Rich families showed off their jewels. Pack leaders discussed alliances. Everyone important was here. Everyone except her. Leora, she stopped. A sharp voice came from behind. Lady Seraphine, daughter of the High Council leader. Beautiful, powerful, cruel. Leora lowered her head. Yes. My lady? Seraphine looked her up and down. Disgust twisted her face. You spilled wine on my dress yesterday. I apologized. And yet the stain remains. Leora knew she hadn't spilled anything, but arguing never helped. I'm sorry. Seraphine smiled. That smile always meant trouble. Then prove it. Before Leora could react, Seraphine grabbed a glass from the tray and poured red wine over Leora's dress. The liquid soaked her immediately. Laughter erupted nearby. Several nobles watched openly. Nobody intervened. Nobody ever did. Heat burned behind Leora's eyes. But she refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of them. Clean yourself up, Seraphine said. And try not to embarrass the pack further. More laughter. Leora lowered her gaze. Yes, my lady. She turned away. Each step felt heavier than the last. The ballroom blurred. Not because of tears, because she was tired. Tired of being treated like she didn't matter. Tired of being invisible. Tired of surviving. She reached the servant corridor and finally stopped. Her hands trembled. Don't cry, she whispered. The words sounded pathetic, even to her. A sudden voice answered. Then, don't give them that power. Leora jumped. Someone stood at the end of the corridor. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black. The shadows seemed to move around him. For one terrifying second, she thought she was looking at a ghost. Then he stepped forward, and her breath caught. Everyone knew his face. Everyone. Alpha King Kale Thorn, ruler of the Moonfang Kingdom, the most powerful alpha alive. Leora immediately bowed. Your Majesty, look at me. His voice was calm, but impossible to ignore. She lifted her eyes. His expression revealed nothing. Cold, controlled, unreadable. Yet he wasn't leaving. He was studying her, as if she were some puzzle he couldn't solve. You didn't defend yourself. Leora forced a small smile. It wouldn't matter. Why? Because she's important. Kale folded his arms. And you're not? She almost laughed. No one had ever asked her that before. No. The answer came too quickly, too honestly. Something changed in his eyes, just for a moment. Then it vanished. What is your name? Leora Vale. His gaze sharpened, as though the name meant something. But that was impossible. No one knew her. No one remembered her family. Most were dead. The rest had disappeared years ago. Yet Kale continued staring. Leora. The way he said it sounded strange, almost familiar. A distant memory. Then footsteps approached. Several advisors entered the corridor. The moment they saw Kale, they bowed. Your Majesty. The spell broke. Kale stepped back. His face became unreadable again. Leora. Yes? Don't let them convince you that your value depends on their approval. She stared, unable to speak. The Alpha King turned and walked away. The advisors followed him. Within seconds he was gone, leaving only silence behind, and 100 unanswered questions. Why had he spoken to her? Why had he looked at her like that? And why had hearing those simple words hurt more than all the insults combined? Because for the first time in years, someone had seen her. The rest of the evening passed in a blur, but near midnight, everything changed. A scream echoed through the palace, then another. Servants ran through the halls. Guards rushed toward the northern wing. Fear spread instantly. Leora grabbed a passing maid. What happened? The girl looked terrified. The royal vault. What about it? The king's sacred relic was stolen. Leora's stomach dropped. Every wolf in the kingdom knew about the relic, an ancient crystal passed through generations of alpha rulers, a symbol of authority, a symbol of legitimacy, impossible to steal. Yet somehow someone had taken it. Alarms rang throughout the palace. Doors slammed shut. No one was allowed to leave. Hours later, guards burst into the servant quarters. Their faces were grim. Their leader held something in his hand, a piece of torn cloth, deep blue, covered in dried wine. Leora's blood turned cold. Because it matched her dress exactly. The guard pointed directly at her. You are under arrest for theft of the royal relic. The room exploded with gasps. Leora couldn't breathe. What? You were seen near the northern wing. I wasn't. The evidence says otherwise. I didn't steal anything. The guard's expression hardened. Tell that to the Alpha King. Then he stepped aside, and Leora saw who was standing behind him. Cale Thorne, watching her, silent, his silver eyes unreadable, and for the first time since meeting him, she couldn't tell whether he believed her. Chapter 2. The room felt smaller with every passing second. Leora stood frozen. The guards surrounded her. Every servant stared. Some looked shocked. Others looked relieved, as if they were glad someone else had been chosen. The torn piece of blue fabric hung from the guard's fingers. A death sentence disguised as evidence. Leora forced herself to breathe. I didn't do it. Nobody answered. She looked at Cale, only Cale, because somehow his opinion mattered more than anyone else's. His face remained expressionless, cold, distant, impossible to read. Search her belongings, one guard ordered. 2 soldiers immediately crossed the room. They overturned her small chest. Clothes fell across the floor. A blanket, a worn book, a few personal items, nothing else. The soldiers exchanged glances. One shook his head. No relic. The room filled with whispers. Leora felt a tiny spark of hope. Then another guard stepped forward. Check beneath the mattress. The soldier lifted the mattress. A crystal pendant slid onto the floor. Everyone gasped. Leora stared. Her blood turned to ice. The pendant wasn't the royal relic, but it belonged to the royal vault. She recognized it instantly. Everyone did. A ceremonial guardian stone. Rare, valuable, impossible for a servant to own. I've never seen that before, Leora whispered. Nobody believed her. The guard picked it up. More evidence. It's not mine. Enough. Leora looked at Cale again. Your Majesty. Her voice cracked. It's not mine. Silence. The entire room waited. Cale's gaze never left the pendant. Then slowly he spoke. Bring her. Fear hit her like a wave. Not because he sounded angry, because he sounded disappointed, and somehow that hurt more. The interrogation chamber sat beneath the palace. Few people ever entered it willingly. Leora sat alone at a wooden table. Hours passed. Nobody came. Nobody spoke to her. The waiting was worse than questions. Every terrible possibility filled her mind. Prison, exile, execution. The kingdom treated theft from the royal vault as treason, especially during a gathering of pack leaders. The door finally opened. Cale entered alone. No guards. No advisors. Just him. The heavy door closed behind him. Silence followed. Leora stood immediately. You don't need to. His voice echoed softly. She sat again. Cale remained standing, studying her. Again. Always studying her. Finally he spoke. Someone planted that pendant. Leora blinked. What? I said. Someone planted it. Hope exploded inside her. You believe me? Cale didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward the table. The evidence is wrong. Then why am I here? His jaw tightened. Because someone wants you here. The words made no sense. Leora stared. What does that mean? That's what I'm trying to discover. A chill ran through her. Someone wanted her accused. Someone had hidden evidence. Someone powerful enough to enter her room. But why? She was nobody, a servant, an omega, invisible. Kale seemed to read her thoughts. Who are your enemies? Leora almost laughed. I don't matter enough to have enemies. You do. His answer came instantly. Too instantly. The silence that followed felt strange. Dangerous. As if he had revealed more than intended. Leora leaned forward. What does that mean? Kale looked away. The movement was brief, but she noticed. For the first time since meeting him, he seemed uncomfortable. Before she could ask again, the door burst open. An advisor rushed inside. His face had gone pale. Your Majesty. Kale turned sharply. What happened? The vault guard. What about him? He's dead. The room went silent. Every drop of color vanished from Leora's face. The advisor swallowed hard. He was murdered less than an hour ago. Kale's expression darkened immediately. How? A knife wound. Leora felt sick. The guard had been alive earlier. Now he was dead. Which meant someone was covering their tracks. Someone dangerous. Someone desperate. Kale's eyes narrowed. Did he say anything before he died? The advisor hesitated, then nodded. One thing. What? The advisor looked directly at Leora. He said the thief wasn't a servant. Leora froze. The advisor continued. He claimed he recognized the person. Kale stepped forward. Who? The advisor's voice dropped. He said it was a member of the High Council. Shock slammed into the room. Even Kale looked stunned. The High Council governed alongside the throne. Its members ranked among the most powerful people in the kingdom. Accusing one of them was nearly unthinkable. Yet a dying guard had done exactly that. Leora suddenly remembered Seraphine. The wine. The humiliation. The hatred in her eyes. Her stomach twisted. No, it couldn't be, could it? Kale was already moving. Double security. Yes, Your Majesty. No one leaves the palace. Understood. The advisor hurried away. The door closed again. Silence returned. Leora slowly looked up. If a council member is involved, then this is bigger than theft. Kale finished the sentence. Something dangerous burned in his eyes now. A predator awakening. Not a king, a wolf. And for the first time, Leora understood why enemies feared him. But then Kale surprised her. He looked directly at her. Not through her, at her. And said quietly, You're not safe here. Her heartbeat stumbled. What? The person behind this expected you to take the blame. Fear crawled down her spine. If the guard identified them, he became a problem. Realization hit her instantly. The guard had been silenced. Murdered before he could speak. And now, Leora was the only convenient suspect left. Kale's face hardened. They may try to eliminate you next. The words drained all warmth from the room. Leora couldn't breathe. Because she suddenly understood something terrifying. This wasn't about proving her innocence anymore. This was about surviving. A loud howl echoed through the palace. Then another. Then dozens more. Alarm howls. Emergency signals. Kale immediately turned toward the door. His expression became lethal. A guard burst inside, panting, terrified. Your Majesty! What is it? The guard struggled for breath. The Eastern Gate. What about it? The prisoner transport was attacked. Kale frowned. We have no prisoner transport scheduled. The guard nodded. I know. Silence. Then understanding dawned. The attack wasn't random. The attackers had expected someone to be moved. Someone accused. Someone vulnerable. Someone like Leora. The guard swallowed hard. They were asking for a name. Kale's eyes narrowed. What name? The guard looked directly at Leora and whispered, They came looking for Leora Vale. Chapter 3. Nobody spoke. Not for several seconds. The guard's words hung in the air. Heavy. Impossible. They asked for her by name? Kale finally said, Yes, Your Majesty. How many attackers? 7. Alive? The guard lowered his eyes. No. Kale cursed under his breath. Leora's heart pounded. She couldn't understand any of it. Why would strangers attack the palace? Why would they ask for her? Nobody knew who she was. Nobody cared who she was. At least that was what she had believed yesterday. Now nothing made sense. The guard hesitated. One more thing. Kale looked up. What? We found this on the leader. The guard stepped forward and handed him a small metal object. Kale stared at it. His expression changed instantly. A flash of shock. Then anger. Then something deeper. Something almost like fear. Leora had never seen such emotion on his face before. What is it? She asked. Kale closed his hand around the object. Nothing. It was obviously not nothing, but she knew better than to argue. The guard left. The door shut. Silence returned. Kale stood motionless, lost in thought. Then he made a decision. Leora. Yes? You're leaving the palace. Her eyes widened. What? Immediately. The answer came without hesitation. Where am I going? Somewhere safe. Safe? The word almost made her laugh. The palace was supposed to be the safest place in the kingdom, and someone had already been murdered. Someone had already framed her. Now strangers were hunting her. Safe no longer existed. Kale moved toward the door. We leave within the hour. We? His steps paused. For a moment neither spoke. Then he answered, yes. The single word somehow made her pulse race. Not because of romance, because of surprise. An Alpha King didn't escort servants. An Alpha King sent guards, advisors, soldiers, anyone else. Yet he was coming himself. Why? That question followed her through the next hour, and she still had no answer. Rain hammered the forest road. Thunder rolled across the mountains. Night had fallen completely. Only 3 horses traveled the narrow path. Kale, Leora, and a silent warrior named Rowan, one of the king's most trusted guards. Nobody spoke much. The storm swallowed every sound. Leora wrapped her cloak tighter. Cold wind cut through the fabric. She was exhausted, confused, terrified, and yet, a strange feeling kept growing inside her. The feeling that Kale was hiding something important, something connected to her. A flash of lightning illuminated the road. For a brief second, she saw Kale looking at her. Not casually, not by accident, studying her again, the same way he had since they met. The moment he noticed her watching, he looked away. Her suspicion deepened. Hours later, they reached an abandoned watchtower. It stood alone among ancient pine trees, dark, silent, forgotten. Rowan secured the horses. Kale led Leora inside. The tower contained only a few rooms, simple, hidden, perfect for disappearing, at least temporarily. Leora sat near the fireplace while Kale started a fire. The sight felt oddly unreal. The Alpha King kneeling beside a fireplace. The ruler of an entire kingdom, doing something a servant normally handled. You don't have to do that, she said. He glanced at her. I'm aware. The answer almost sounded amused. Almost. The fire slowly came alive. Warmth filled the room. For the first time all day, Leora relaxed slightly. Only slightly. Too many questions remained. Finally, she couldn't hold them back anymore. Why are they looking for me? Kale stared into the flames. I don't know. You don't believe that. His eyes lifted. Neither looked away. The tension between them thickened. Not romantic. Not yet. Just 2 people standing on opposite sides of a truth. Leora. His voice was quiet. There are things I need to confirm first. What things? Silence. Again. Always silence. She looked away first. Frustration burned inside her. Everyone keeps hiding things. Kale said nothing. That somehow made it worse. Outside, thunder cracked across the sky. The tower shook. Then Rowan's voice echoed from below. Your Majesty. Instantly, Kale stood. The change was immediate. The relaxed man beside the fire vanished. The Alpha King returned. What is it? Rowan appeared in the doorway. His face had gone pale. Dangerously pale. We have a problem. Kale moved forward. What happened? Rowan hesitated. then held out a folded piece of paper. Kale took it, read it, and froze. Leora's stomach tightened. "What is it?" Neither man answered. Kale slowly handed her the paper. She unfolded it. The message contained only one sentence. 7 words, written in dark ink. "We know who her mother was." Leora stared, confused. Then she looked up. "My mother?" Neither man spoke. The silence told her everything. This mattered. A lot. Far more than it should. "My mother died years ago." Kale's expression darkened. "Are you certain?" The question struck her like a slap. What kind of question is that? A necessary one. "No." Her voice rose. "No, it isn't." Memories surfaced immediately. A warm smile. A gentle hand. A lullaby sung at night. Then blood. Fire. Screaming. Loss. Leora had buried those memories years ago. Her mother was gone. She knew that. Didn't she? Kale watched her carefully, as if measuring every reaction, every emotion, every word. Then Rowan spoke. There was something else. Kale turned. "What?" "The messenger." "What about him?" "He didn't survive." Leora felt sick. Another death. Another silence. Another missing answer. Rowan continued. "But before he died," Kale's jaw tightened. "What did he say?" The warrior swallowed. "He said the same thing repeatedly." "What thing?" Rowan looked directly at Leora. Then repeated the exact words. "The heir has returned." The room went completely silent. Leora stared, confused. "The heir?" Neither man answered. Because both already understood something she didn't. And for the first time, Leora realized the mystery surrounding her wasn't about theft. It wasn't about murder. It wasn't even about the royal relic. It was about her, and whatever secret had been buried with her past. Then Kale said the one thing she never expected to hear. "I think your entire life has been a lie." Chapter 4. Leora couldn't sleep. Not after that. Not after hearing those words. Your entire life has been a lie. The sentence repeated endlessly inside her mind. The storm outside had finally passed. The watchtower sat quiet beneath the moonlight. Everyone else seemed calm. Leora felt like her world was breaking apart. She stood beside a narrow window, looking out at the forest, trying to think, trying to breathe, trying to understand. Footsteps approached behind her. She didn't need to turn around. She already knew who it was. Kale. The silence between them felt different now. Heavier, more personal. "What aren't you telling me?" she asked. No greeting, no politeness. Just the question. Kale stopped beside the window. For a moment he watched the forest. Then he sighed. It was a small sound, but somehow shocking. Kings weren't supposed to sound tired. "You deserve answers. Then give them." His jaw tightened. "I don't have all of them. Give me the ones you do." The moonlight caught his silver eyes. For the first time she saw uncertainty there. Real uncertainty. Not calculation. Not strategy. Something human. "I knew your mother." The words hit like thunder. Leora turned instantly. "What?" Kale didn't look away. "I knew her." Her pulse exploded. "No. It's true." "No." Her voice cracked. "You couldn't have." "I did." Anger flooded through her. Years of grief. For years of loneliness. Years of unanswered questions. All crashing together. "Then where were you?" The question escaped before she could stop it. Kale froze. Leora's eyes filled with tears. She hated it. Hated crying. Hated weakness. But she couldn't stop. "If you knew her, where were you when she died?" Silence. Pain flashed across his face. Gone almost instantly. But she saw it. "You think I abandoned her?" "I don't know what to think." Another silence. Then Kale said quietly, "So do I." The answer stunned her. Because he sounded guilty. Not defensive. Not angry. Guilty. And somehow that frightened her more. The next morning brought no peace. Only more questions. And danger. Rowan returned from scouting shortly after sunrise. His expression was grim. "They found us." Kale stood immediately. "How many?" At least 20. Leora's stomach dropped. 20? This wasn't a search anymore. It was a hunt. How far away? Kale asked. Less than an hour. The room became silent. Rowan spread a map across the table. They're coming from 3 directions. Kale studied it. Thinking, calculating, planning. Then his fingers stopped on a point deep in the mountains. There. Rowan nodded. The old sanctuary. Leora looked between them. What sanctuary? Neither man answered immediately. That answer alone worried her. Finally Rowan spoke. A hidden refuge. For who? Another pause. Then Kale answered. For people the kingdom forgot. Something about those words felt strange. Almost personal. Almost painful. Before Leora could ask more, a howl echoed outside. Close. Too close. Rowan immediately reached for his sword. Kale's eyes narrowed. They're here already. The next howl sounded even nearer. Leora felt fear grip her chest. She had never been hunted before. Now it seemed half the kingdom wanted her. Stay behind me, Kale said. The command was calm. Absolute. Leora nodded before she could stop herself. They rushed downstairs. Outside, warriors emerged from the trees. Not 20. More. Far more. Dozens. Their faces were hidden beneath dark hoods. None wore pack symbols. None carried banners. That alone was terrifying. Anonymous enemies were always the most dangerous. The leader stepped forward. A scar crossed half his face. His eyes locked onto Leora instantly. Not Kale. Not Rowan. Her. There she is. The words made her blood run cold. Kale stepped in front of her. You've made a mistake. The scarred man laughed. No? His smile was ugly. 8 years late, perhaps. Leora froze. 8 years. The same age as... No. Her thoughts stopped. Something wasn't right. Something connected all of this. But she couldn't see it yet. The scarred man pointed directly at her. Hand her over. Kale's voice became ice. Leave. The man laughed again. Several warriors drew weapons. We're not leaving without the girl. The air shifted instantly. Predatory. Deadly. Leora felt it. Every wolf present felt it. The Alpha King was angry. Truly angry. The temperature seemed to drop. Even the attackers hesitated. For a second. Only a second. Then, the scarred man made a fatal mistake. He smiled and said, "You don't even know what she is." The silence that followed was terrifying. Kale took one step forward. What does that mean? The man realized his mistake immediately. Too late. Kale's eyes narrowed. Danger flashed across his face. Answer me. The attacker backed away. One step, then another. Suddenly afraid. Very afraid. Leora noticed. So did Rowan. The man wasn't afraid of soldiers. He wasn't afraid of death. He was afraid of what Kale might discover, which meant he knew something. Something important. The scarred man cursed, then shouted, "Take her!" Chaos exploded. Warriors charged. Steel flashed. The forest erupted into violence. Rowan met the first attacker head-on. Kale moved like a storm. Fast. Brutal. Precise. Leora had never seen anyone fight like that. Men twice his size fell within seconds. The attackers quickly realized why he ruled the kingdom. Yet despite the battle, 3 warriors broke through, and they came directly for her. Leora stumbled backward. Fear flooded her chest. One grabbed her arm, another reached for her throat. Then something happened. Something impossible. The moment his skin touched hers, a pulse of silver light burst from Leora's body. The attacker screamed and flew backward, not stumbled, not pushed, thrown, as if struck by an invisible force. Everyone froze. Attackers, guards, Rowan, even Kale. The forest fell silent. Leora stared at her own hands. Horrified, confused. The silver glow faded instantly, gone as quickly as it appeared. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then the scarred man's face went white, pure white, because he recognized what he had just seen, and whatever it meant, it terrified him. He pointed at Leora with a shaking hand. The bloodline. His voice cracked. The bloodline survived. Kale turned sharply. What bloodline? The man looked directly at Leora and whispered the words that changed everything. She's not a servant. Then he dropped to one knee. Not in surrender, in fear, and every attacker immediately did the same. Chapter 5. No one moved. The forest stood silent around them. Dozens of armed warriors knelt on the ground, not because they had been defeated, because they were afraid. Leora's heart pounded so hard it hurt. She looked from one face to another. Every expression carried the same emotion: fear, respect, recognition. But how? She was nobody. A servant. An Omega. A forgotten girl. Wasn't she? The scarred leader lowered his head. We didn't know. Kale stepped forward. His voice was dangerously calm. Know what? The man swallowed. His eyes never left Leora. The mark. What mark? The warrior looked confused, then pointed at her neck. Leora instinctively touched her skin. Nothing felt different. But Rowan suddenly inhaled sharply. Kale turned toward her and froze. For the first time since she had met him, true shock appeared on his face. Leora. His voice was barely audible. She felt fear crawl through her chest. What? Your neck. Her hands trembled. What about it? Nobody answered, which terrified her even more. Rowan slowly handed her a small mirror. Leora looked and forgot how to breathe. A silver symbol glowed softly beneath her skin. A crescent moon surrounded by 3 stars. Beautiful, ancient, impossible. She had never seen it before. Yet somehow, part of her recognized it. Like a memory buried deep inside her soul. The glow faded slowly, but the symbol remained. Permanent. Real. Leora lowered the mirror. What is this? No one answered immediately. Then the scarred man whispered, the royal blood crest. The world seemed to tilt. No. His expression remained serious. It disappeared 8 years ago. Leora shook her head. No. The entire kingdom believed it was extinct. No. The word came out broken. Weak. Desperate. Because she already knew. She already knew he wasn't lying. Some part of her understood before her mind could catch up. Kale stared at the symbol, then closed his eyes briefly, as though a terrible suspicion had just become reality. When he opened them again, everything had changed. The mystery, the danger. The way he looked at her, everything. Get up, he told the attackers. None moved. I said get up. Slowly they obeyed. The scarred leader looked terrified. What happens now? Kale's answer came instantly. Now you tell me everything. An hour later, they sat inside the watchtower. The captured warriors stood under guard. The scarred leader sat across from Kale. Leora remained beside the fireplace, still trying to process everything. Royal blood crest. Bloodline. Heir. The words circled endlessly in her mind. Kale folded his arms. Start talking. The man nodded. My name is Garrick. I don't care. Garrick visibly swallowed. Leora almost felt sorry for him. Almost. You've spent 8 years searching for her? Kale asked. Yes? Why? Garrick looked toward Leora, then away. Like he feared speaking the answer aloud. Finally he did. Because she was stolen. The room fell silent. Leora stared. Stolen? What are you talking about? Garrick hesitated, then met her gaze. You were never supposed to disappear. A chill raced down her spine. Kale leaned forward. Continue. Garrick nodded. 8 years ago, the royal bloodline ended. Officially, Rowan muttered. Garrick agreed. Officially. Leora looked between them. Nobody seemed surprised, which meant they knew something she didn't. Again, Kale's expression hardened. Tell her. The man took a deep breath, then began. Long before King Kale ruled the kingdom, another family sat upon the throne. Leora listened carefully. The Lunaris bloodline. The name meant nothing to her. yet hearing it sent a strange ache through her chest. Their power came from ancient wolf magic, Garrick continued. Every generation carried the silver crest. Leora touched her neck unconsciously. The kingdom believed the bloodline vanished after the palace fire. The palace fire. The words struck her immediately. Memories flashed. Smoke, heat, screams. A woman running. Strong arms carrying her. Then darkness. Leora grabbed the chair. The room spun briefly. Kale noticed immediately. What is it? I remember. Everyone froze. What? Kale asked. The fire. Silence. Leora's hands shook. I remember flames. Nobody spoke. She continued. I remember someone carrying me. A terrible realization began forming. Slowly. Painfully. No. No. It couldn't be. Could it? Kale seemed to be thinking the same thing. Garrick lowered his eyes. The palace fire wasn't an accident. The words landed like a hammer. What? Rowan asked. It was an assassination. The room exploded with tension. Leora stared. Garrick continued. Someone wanted the Lunaris bloodline erased. Every word felt heavier than the last. They killed nearly everyone. Nearly? Kale asked. Garrick nodded. One child survived. The room became silent. Painfully silent. Leora already knew what was coming. She could feel it. Like standing at the edge of a cliff. The truth waiting below. Garrick looked directly at her. That child was you. No one spoke. No one needed to. Because the truth had already arrived. Leora felt strangely numb, as if her heart couldn't process the shock. A servant, an omega, an orphan. None of it had been true. Her entire life. A lie. Exactly as Kale had warned. Then another realization struck her. A far more important one. If that's true, her voice barely worked. Then who was my mother? Nobody answered immediately. Kale looked away. And that frightened her more than any answer. Kale? It was the first time she had used his name. Neither noticed. Who was she? The Alpha King stood motionless. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he walked toward the window. His shoulders seemed heavier somehow. As if carrying an old burden. A painful one. Finally he spoke. I hoped I was wrong. Leora's pulse quickened. What do you mean? He turned. The emotion in his eyes stunned her. Regret. Years of regret. And grief. So much grief. Because if you're who I think you are... His voice broke slightly. Just once. Then he continued. Then your mother didn't die in that fire. Leora's heart stopped. The room blurred. What? Kale swallowed. The next words changed everything. I watched her leave with you. Leora stood so quickly her chair crashed backward. No. She was alive. No. After the fire. No. Tears filled her eyes instantly. You said she died. I believed she did. The confession came harshly, painfully. Until now. The room spun around her. Alive. Her mother had been alive. Alive. For years. And somehow never returned. Never searched for her. Never came back. The pain of that possibility cut deeper than any blade. But Kale wasn't finished. Because the biggest secret still remained. The one he had hidden since the beginning. He looked directly at her, then said quietly, because your mother wasn't just anyone, Leora. A terrible feeling settled over the room. The kind that arrives before a storm, before disaster. Before truth, Kale's silver eyes locked onto hers, and he whispered, she was my mate. Chapter 6. The room went completely silent. Leora stared at Kale, certain she had heard him wrong. Certain, because the alternative was impossible. What did you say? Kale didn't answer immediately. His eyes never left hers. The regret in them only deepened. Leora felt her pulse hammering in her ears. You said my mother was your mate. Yes. The word shattered what little certainty she had left. No. Her voice cracked. No. Because if that was true, everything changed. Everything. Garrick lowered his gaze. Rowan remained silent. No one looked surprised. which meant they already knew, or suspected. Only Leora had been left in the dark. Again. She took a step backward, then another. The room suddenly felt too small, too crowded, too full of lies. You knew. Kale's jaw tightened. Leora. You knew. His silence answered for him. Pain exploded through her chest. Not because he had lied, because he had hidden it, because while she had spent her life searching for answers, he had recognized pieces of the truth and said nothing. You looked at me like you knew me. Her voice shook. You kept staring. Kale said nothing. You knew my mother. Silence. You knew something was wrong. Silence. Tears burned her eyes. And you still didn't tell me. The accusation hung between them, sharp as a blade. Kale accepted it, because it was true. For several painful seconds nobody spoke. Then Kale quietly said, I was afraid. The answer stunned her. Afraid? The Alpha King? The man who faced armies without blinking? Leora stared. Afraid of what? His eyes closed briefly. The expression on his face looked almost unbearable, like reopening an old wound. When the palace burned, his voice grew rough. I searched for both of you. The room remained still. I searched for years. Leora listened despite herself, because she heard something in his voice, something impossible to fake. Pain, real pain. I never found you. He looked away. I found bodies. The words barely escaped him. Leora felt her anger falter, only slightly. I believed she died. The confession sounded broken. I believed my mate was dead. Silence. Then I believed her child died with her. The room seemed to shrink around them. Because suddenly, Leora understood something. Kale hadn't simply lost answers. He had lost a family. Or thought he had. The realization hurt in ways she didn't understand. Yet questions still remained. Too many questions. If she survived, Leora whispered, then where is she? Nobody had an answer. Not even Kale. And somehow that was worse. Later that night, nobody slept. The truth had changed everything. Plans were made, maps were studied, messages were sent. Because if Leora truly carried the Lunaris bloodline, then every powerful faction in the kingdom would eventually learn about it. Some would support her, others would fear her. And fear made people dangerous. Very dangerous. Leora sat alone near the tower entrance. The cool night air helped clear her thoughts. A little. Not much. Footsteps approached. This time it was Rowan. The warrior sat beside her. For several moments neither spoke. Then Rowan surprised her. You're handling this better than most people would. A small laugh escaped her. I don't think I am. You are. She looked toward the forest. I don't even know who I am anymore. Rowan nodded slowly. I understand. No, you don't. The words came out sharper than intended. But Rowan didn't seem offended. Instead, he stared into the darkness, then quietly said, I was a blacksmith's son. Leora blinked. What? I wasn't born a warrior. That surprised her. A lot. Rowan smiled faintly. I spent 20 years believing I knew exactly who I was. His expression softened. Then I learned everything I believed was wrong. Leora listened. Because somehow she needed to. Needed something normal. Something human. Rowan shrugged. It takes time. What does? Building yourself again. The words settled deep inside her. Not because they solved anything, because they felt true. For the first time all day, she felt slightly less alone. Then Rowan's expression changed. Instantly, the warmth vanished. His hand moved toward his sword. Leora noticed immediately. What is it? Rowan stood, listening. The forest had gone silent. Completely silent. No birds. No insects. Nothing. Every instinct in Leora's body suddenly screamed danger. Rowan drew his blade. Inside. Fear surged through her. What's wrong? Rowan's eyes narrowed. We're not alone. The next sound came from the trees. A branch snapping. Then another. Then another. Not one person. Many. Dozens. Leora hurried inside. Rowan followed. The tower immediately erupted into activity. Weapons were drawn, windows secured, positions taken. Kale emerged from an upper room. One look at Rowan told him everything. How many? More than before. The answer darkened the king's face. Leora's stomach sank. They had barely escaped the last attack. Now another force had found them. Impossible. Unless someone had betrayed them. The thought hit her instantly. And judging by Kale's expression, it had hit him too. A horn echoed through the forest. Low, ancient, unfamiliar. Every captured warrior immediately turned pale. Garrick looked terrified. Truly terrified. Kale noticed. What is it? Garrick swallowed hard. His voice shook. I know that horn. Nobody spoke. Garrick looked toward the darkness beyond the tower, then whispered, We're dead. The room froze. Kale stepped forward. Explain. Garrick's face had lost all color. The people outside aren't hunters. Then who are they? The answer came immediately. They're the wardens. The name meant nothing to Leora, but it clearly meant something to everyone else. Rowan cursed. Kale's eyes narrowed. Dangerously. Leora looked between them. What are wardens? No one answered right away, because no one wanted to. Finally Rowan spoke. They existed before the kingdom. A chill ran through the room. They existed before the throne. Another chill. They answered to no Alpha. The silence deepened. Leora suddenly wished she hadn't asked. Then Garrick delivered the part that made everyone's blood run cold. They only appear for one reason. Kale already knew. She saw it on his face. Yet he asked anyway. What reason? Garrick looked directly at Leora and whispered, to eliminate surviving heirs. At that exact moment, boom. The tower doors shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. Another impact followed, even stronger. The wardens had arrived. And they weren't here to capture her. They were here to finish what had started 8 years ago. Chapter 7, Boom. The tower doors shook again. Wood splintered. Dust filled the air. Everyone moved at once. Rowan barked orders. Warriors rushed to defensive positions. And Kale stood in the center of the room, calm, silent, deadly. Leora's heart pounded. The wardens. The name alone seemed to terrify experienced fighters. That frightened her more than the attack itself. A third impact slammed into the doors. Cracks spread across the wood. They would not hold much longer. Kale turned to Rowan. Take her through the eastern passage. Rowan froze. What? Now. Leora looked between them. What passage? Neither answered. Kale stepped closer. His silver eyes locked onto hers. You leave immediately. No. The answer escaped before she could stop it. Everyone stared. Even Kale. Leora swallowed hard. But she didn't back down. I won't run while everyone else fights. Something flickered in Kale's expression. Respect. Brief. Unexpected. Then it disappeared. This isn't a request. I know. Another impact thundered through the tower. The doors groaned. Almost broken now. Leora's chest tightened. Why are they trying so hard to kill me? Kale hesitated. Only for a moment. Then he answered honestly. Because you're proof. Proof of what? His gaze hardened. That someone lied about the destruction of your bloodline. The words struck deep. Proof. Not a person. Not a woman. Proof. Evidence. A threat. She suddenly understood. This wasn't about who she was. It was about what her existence exposed. Someone powerful had built an entire kingdom on a lie. And Leora's survival threatened everything. The realization made her sick. Boom. The doors finally cracked open. A blade thrust through the gap. A warrior screamed. Chaos erupted. They're inside! Someone shouted. Kale immediately moved. Leora, go. This time she obeyed, because she saw the truth in his eyes. The wardens weren't here for anyone else. Only her. The eastern passage ran beneath the tower. Dark. Narrow. Ancient. Rowan led the way with a lantern. Leora followed. Behind them, the sounds of battle echoed through stone. Steel clashing. Shouts. Howls. The tower was becoming a battlefield. Every step felt wrong. She wanted to go back, wanted to help, wanted answers. Instead, she kept moving. The tunnel twisted deep beneath the mountains. Minutes passed. Then Rowan suddenly stopped. His hand shot out, protecting her. What is it? Rowan didn't answer. His sword slowly left its sheath. Fear crawled through her chest. Someone stood ahead, waiting in the darkness. A single figure, motionless, watching them. The lantern light revealed a hooded cloak, nothing more. Rowan stepped forward. Move! The stranger didn't. Silence filled the tunnel. Then the figure slowly lowered the hood. Leora's breath caught. A woman, older, beautiful, silver eyes, the exact same silver eyes as Kale. The woman looked directly at Leora and smiled sadly. Oh, her voice trembled. You look just like her. Every instinct screamed danger. Yet the woman's expression held no hatred, only grief. Deep grief. Rowan's face darkened. You shouldn't be here. The woman nodded. I know. Leora looked between them. You know her. Rowan's silence answered. The woman stepped forward. I know both of you. Her gaze remained fixed on Leora. For some reason that felt important. Very important. Who are you? Leora asked. The woman's smile faded. Then she answered. My name is Elara Thorn. Leora frowned. The surname sounded familiar. Then, realization hit. Thorn. Kale's surname. Her eyes widened. The woman nodded. Yes. Understanding spread slowly. Shock followed. You are related to him. Elara looked away briefly. Then back. I am his sister. The tunnel fell silent. Leora stared. Kale had a sister? Nobody had mentioned that. Ever. Yet what shocked her wasn't Elara's existence. It was the sadness in her eyes. The guilt. The pain. As if she carried a burden she couldn't escape. Rowan stepped forward. What do you want? Elara's gaze never left Leora. I came to warn her. The answer surprised everyone. Warn me about what? Elara hesitated, then spoke carefully. The truth. Leora almost laughed. Another truth. Another secret. Another piece of a life she didn't recognize. I'm listening. Elara closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them again, tears shimmered there. The palace fire wasn't only an assassination. Fear tightened inside Leora. What does that mean? Elara swallowed, then delivered the words. It was a betrayal. The tunnel suddenly felt colder. Rowan's expression darkened. He already knew, or suspected. Leora looked at him. Then back at Elara. Betrayal by who? The woman didn't answer. Not immediately, because the answer clearly hurt. A lot. Finally she whispered. Someone inside the palace. The statement wasn't surprising. Not anymore. What mattered was who. Leora's pulse quickened. Who? Elara's eyes filled with sorrow. She looked almost ashamed, as if speaking the name would destroy her. Then she finally said it. My father. The world stopped. Leora couldn't breathe. Kale's father? The former king? No. Impossible. Leora nodded slowly, as if hearing Leora's thoughts. He wanted the Lunaris bloodline erased. The tunnel seemed to tilt. Everything she thought she understood shattered again. Why? Elara's voice broke. Because he feared them. Rowan cursed quietly. The pieces were beginning to fit together, and none of them liked the picture. Leora's hands trembled. Did Kale know? The question came out barely audible. Elara closed her eyes. Pain crossed her face. Then she answered. No. Relief hit Leora instantly, only to disappear when Elara continued. But he discovered the truth later. Silence. Cold. Terrible silence. Leora stared. No. Elara nodded. He learned years after the fire. The words felt like knives. He knew? Elara looked away. Yes. Leora's chest tightened painfully. Kale had known. Not everything, but enough. Enough to understand there had been a betrayal. Enough to know someone had murdered her family. Enough to hide it. The hurt cut deeper than she expected. Far deeper. Then another realization struck her. A worse one. If he knew. Her voice shook. Then why didn't he tell me? Alara looked heartbroken. Because she knew the answer. And because the answer wasn't simple. It destroyed him. Leora froze. What? He blamed himself. The tunnel became silent again. Alara's tears finally fell. Kale spent years believing he failed your mother. Leora didn't know what to say. Didn't know what to feel. Anger. Sympathy. Confusion. All at once. Then a distant explosion echoed through the tunnel. The tower. The battle. Reality returned instantly. Rowan grabbed his sword. We need to move. Alara nodded. Yes. But before anyone could take a step, a howl echoed from behind them. Not from the tower. From inside the tunnel. Close. Very close. All three turned. Dark figures emerged from the shadows. Wardens. Dozens of them. Waiting. Blocking the only escape route. Rowan cursed. Alara went pale. Leora's heart stopped. Because standing at the front of the wardens was a man carrying a silver spear. And the moment he saw her, he smiled. Like he had finally found what he had been searching for. Then he spoke her name. Not with hatred. Not with anger. With certainty. Leora Lunaris. The name echoed through the tunnel. A name she had never heard before. A name that somehow belonged to her. And the man holding the spear lowered his head. Not in respect. Not in surrender. In mourning. Then he whispered the words that changed everything once again. We're too late. Chapter 8. We're too late. The words echoed through the tunnel. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Leora stared at the man holding the silver spear. Confusion swept through her. Too late for what? The wardens had hunted her across the kingdom, attacked the tower, killed countless people, yet the man before her looked devastated. Not victorious. Not cruel. Devastated. The contradiction made no sense. Rowan clearly felt the same. His sword remained raised. Explain. The silver-speared man looked at him, then at Leora. His expression softened. Far too much for an enemy. We were supposed to find her first. The answer only created more questions. Leora stepped forward, carefully. Who are you? The man bowed his head. My name is Cassian. Why are you hunting me? Pain crossed his face. We aren't. Silence. Absolute silence. No. Leora shook her head. That's impossible. I understand why you believe that. His voice remained calm. But we never hunted you. Rowan laughed harshly. Then why are bodies piling up behind you? Cassian's expression darkened. Because someone wanted us blamed. The tunnel grew still. Leora's pulse quickened. Another lie. Another manipulation. Another hidden hand moving pieces from the shadows. Cassian slowly lowered his spear. The wardens protected the Lunaris bloodline for centuries. The statement stunned everyone. Especially Leora. What? We were their guardians. The words felt impossible, yet somehow they sounded true. Cassian continued. When the palace burned, we were betrayed. The same word Alara had used. Betrayed. We arrived too late. His gaze lowered. We failed. The grief in his voice felt real. Painfully real. Leora couldn't ignore that, even if she wanted to. Then Rowan asked the obvious question. If you're protectors... His grip tightened around his sword. Who attacked the tower? Cassian's expression hardened immediately. The same people who attacked the palace 8 years ago. Fear crawled through Leora's chest. The same people? Cassian nodded. They never stopped searching. The realization hit hard. Someone had spent 8 years hunting a child. 8 years. The thought was horrifying. Then another voice echoed through the tunnel. A familiar voice. He's telling the truth. Everyone turned. Leora's breath caught. Kale, bruised. Covered in blood, but alive. Relief surged through her so suddenly it almost hurt. Kale walked toward them. Several warriors followed behind him. Rowan immediately relaxed. Alara visibly exhaled, and for one brief second, Leora forgot she was angry with him. Forgot the secrets. Forgot the lies. She was simply glad he was alive. Then reality returned. The feeling vanished. Kale noticed. Of course he noticed. His eyes lingered on her for a moment, then moved away. The distance between them felt larger than ever. Cassian inclined his head respectfully. Your Majesty. Kale nodded once. What remains of the wardens stands with her. Leora blinked. Stands with her? Not with the throne. Not with the kingdom. With her. That felt important. Dangerously important. Kale seemed to agree. His expression grew thoughtful. Then tell me. Cassian met his gaze. Tell you what? Who is behind this? The question hung heavily in the tunnel. Cassian's answer came immediately. The High Council. Nobody looked surprised. Not really. Too many clues had already pointed there. Yet hearing it confirmed still felt shocking. Alara closed her eyes. Rowan cursed. Leora's stomach tightened. Seraphine, the council, the theft, the frame-up. Everything suddenly connected. Cassian continued. The palace fire created their power. Kale's eyes narrowed. They eliminated the Lunaris bloodline. Yes. They controlled the throne afterward. Yes. They spent years hunting survivors. Yes. Every answer felt like another stone falling into place. A terrible picture emerging. Then Leora asked the question nobody else had. Why now? Cassian looked directly at her. Because they know who you are. The tunnel became silent. Again. They've always searched for rumors. His voice remained steady. But rumors aren't dangerous. His eyes darkened. Proof is, Leora understood instantly. The silver crest. The power that had appeared during the battle. The bloodline. The heir. She was proof. Living proof. And that terrified the people responsible. Then another realization struck her. One that made her blood run cold. If they know who I am, she swallowed. Then they know where I am. Nobody answered. Because nobody needed to. They all knew. The enemy would come. Soon. Very soon. By nightfall they reached the mountain sanctuary. The hidden refuge Rowan had mentioned days earlier. Ancient stone walls rose from the cliffs, protected by waterfalls and forest, invisible unless someone knew where to look. The moment they entered, people gathered. Families, elders, children, dozens of them, all carrying the same silver eyes. Leora froze. Because for the first time in her life, she saw people who looked like her. Not exactly, but enough. Enough to recognize something familiar. Something she had never experienced before. Belonging. The feeling hit unexpectedly. Hard. An elderly woman approached. Tears immediately filled her eyes. By the moon, her hands trembled. It really is her. Leora didn't know what to say. The woman gently touched her cheek, then smiled. A warm smile. A grandmother's smile. A family's smile. The kind Leora had missed her entire life. Welcome home, child. The words nearly broke her. Because no one had ever said them before. Not truly. For the first time since all of this began, Leora felt something other than fear. Hope. Small. Fragile. But real. Yet peace never lasted long. Not anymore. Hours later, while the sanctuary slept, Leora stood alone beside a waterfall. But the moon reflected across the water. Everything felt strangely calm. Until footsteps approached. She didn't need to look. She already knew. Kale. The silence between them returned. Heavy. Complicated. Neither spoke immediately. Finally Kale broke first. I should have told you. Leora stared at the water. Yes? The answer came quietly, not angrily. That somehow hurt more. Kale nodded. I know. Another silence followed. Then Leora asked the question she had avoided, the question that truly mattered. When did you learn the truth? Kale looked toward the moonlit water. 5 years ago. Pain flashed through her chest. 5 years. 5 years. You knew for 5 years. Part of it. His voice sounded tired. Not all of it, but enough. Kale closed his eyes briefly. Yes. The honesty surprised her. No excuses, no defense, just truth. At last. Leora looked at him, really looked at him. The burden he carried was visible now, the regret, the guilt, the years of grief. She finally understood something important. Kale hadn't hidden the truth to protect himself. He had hidden it because he didn't know how to face it. That didn't erase the hurt, but it changed it. A little. Then Kale said something she never expected. I loved her. Leora froze. The words sounded fragile. Dangerously fragile. My mother? Yes. His voice broke slightly. Just once. Every day. The confession hung in the night air. Real, raw, painful. Leora suddenly realized she had never heard him speak this way before. Not as a king. Not as an alpha. As a man. A man who had lost someone. A man still mourning. Then Kale looked at her. And for the first time since they met, the distance between them seemed to shrink. Not disappear. Shrink. Trust beginning. Slowly. Carefully. Exactly where love someday might grow. But not yet. Not now. Because danger remained. And danger arrived faster than anyone expected. A horn suddenly echoed through the mountains. Alarm horns. Dozens of them. The sanctuary erupted into chaos. People ran. Shouts filled the air. Kale instantly turned. His expression became lethal. Rowan appeared seconds later, breathing hard. They found us. Every trace of peace vanished. How many? Kale asked. Rowan's face had gone pale. Far paler than before. The answer came in a whisper. Thousands. The night fell silent. Leora's heart stopped. Because no council should command an army that large. No council should possess that much power. Which meant the enemy had been preparing for this moment for years. And as warriors rushed toward the walls, a second messenger arrived. Terrified. Bleeding. Barely standing. He looked directly at Leora, then delivered the worst news yet. They have your daughter. Chapter 9. They have your daughter. The words struck like lightning. The entire sanctuary froze. Leora stared at the messenger. Certain she had misunderstood. Certain. Because there was only one problem. She didn't have a daughter. The messenger collapsed to one knee. Exhausted. Bleeding. Terrified. Kale stepped forward immediately. What are you talking about? The man struggled for breath. The child. What child? The girl. Confusion spread across every face, including Leora's. I don't have a daughter. The messenger looked up. His expression changed, from panic to confusion, then to horror. Oh no. A terrible silence followed. Kale's eyes narrowed. What? The messenger swallowed hard. They told us she was with you. Fear crawled through Leora's chest. Who? The council, Rowan cursed. Ilara went pale. Something was very wrong. Very wrong. The messenger continued. They've been searching for a girl. What girl? Kale demanded. The man's voice shook. A child with silver eyes. The world stopped. Leora's heart skipped. Silver eyes? A girl. 8 years old. Suddenly, a memory surfaced. A memory buried beneath years of confusion. A little girl laughing. Tiny hands reaching toward her. A hidden cottage. Snow falling outside. A lullaby. The exact same lullaby her mother used to sing. Leora staggered backward. No. Everyone looked at her. Kale's face hardened. Leora? Another memory crashed into her. A woman. Beautiful. Exhausted. Holding a newborn child. Crying. Begging. Protect her. The voice echoed inside her head. Please. Leora grabbed her temples. Pain exploded behind her eyes. More memories flooded in. Locked memories. Hidden memories. Years of them. A cottage beyond the northern mountains. A secret life. A child. A little girl calling her mama. The sanctuary blurred. Kale caught her before she fell. Leora! The moment he touched her, the final barrier shattered. Everything came back. Everything. 8 years ago. After the palace fire. Her mother had survived. Barely. She had escaped with Leora. Hidden her. protected her. And years later, before dying from injuries that never fully healed, she had entrusted another child to Leora, a baby girl, a baby whose existence could destroy kingdoms, a baby no one was supposed to find. Leora gasped. Tears filled her eyes. Oh my God. Kale stared. What? She looked at him, truly looked at him, and saw it. The same silver eyes, the same features, the same blood. The truth arrived all at once. The child. The hidden child. The reason the council had searched for years. The reason the wardens were too late. The reason everything was happening now. Leora's voice trembled. I remember. Silence. Kale's grip tightened. Remember what? Leora could barely breathe. My mother. No one moved. My mother wasn't only protecting me. Fear swept through the room. She was protecting another child. The messenger looked shocked. Rowan frowned. Elara went pale. Only Cassian seemed to understand. The warden closed his eyes, as though a terrible puzzle had finally been solved. Kale's voice dropped. What child? Leora felt tears sliding down her face. A baby. The room remained silent. A newborn baby. Kale's expression changed, slowly, dangerously, like a man approaching a truth he wasn't ready to hear. Leora continued. My mother found her after the fire. Cassian whispered. No. Leora nodded. She said the baby would never survive inside the palace. The sanctuary seemed to hold its breath. She said people would kill for her. Kale had gone completely still. Leora. His voice barely worked. Who was the baby? The answer had waited 8 years. The answer had started wars, killed families, destroyed bloodlines, and now it finally emerged. Leora looked directly at him, then whispered, Your daughter. No one spoke. No one could. The shock was too great. Kale stared at her, as though he had forgotten how to breathe. The word died in his throat. Leora nodded through tears. My mother hid her. Memories continued returning. Fast, relentless. After her mate died, she discovered the baby. Cassian looked devastated. The last royal child. Leora nodded. She couldn't leave her. Kale's hands trembled. The sight stunned everyone. The Alpha King never trembled. Never. Yet now he did. Because somewhere out there, he had a daughter. An 8-year-old daughter. A daughter he never knew existed. A daughter hidden from the entire kingdom. A daughter raised in secret. Protected by women willing to sacrifice everything. Leora's voice broke. I promised to protect her. Kale looked at her. What? The memory became crystal clear. A dying woman. A frightened young Leora. A sleeping baby. And a promise. Always a promise. After my mother died, I raised her. The sanctuary fell silent. Completely silent. Every missing piece finally connected. The hunts, the attacks, the lies, the hidden air, everything. Leora closed her eyes. Tears streamed down her face. I was never hiding from them. She looked toward Kale. I was hiding her. The truth landed with devastating force. For 8 years she had protected his child. For 8 years she had sacrificed her own life. For 8 years she had carried a burden that wasn't hers, and now the council had found the girl. Kale looked shattered, not as a king, as a father hearing about his daughter for the first time. Then Rowan stepped forward, his face pale. Where is she? Leora's heart clenched. The answer came immediately. North Hollow. The name struck her like a knife. The cottage. The hidden home. The only place she had ever felt safe. The place where the little girl still believed monsters weren't real. The place where she was waiting. Or had been. Kale's eyes became ice. When did they take her? The messenger answered. 3 days ago. Fear exploded through the sanctuary. 3 days. 3 days in enemy hands. 3 days for the council to use her, manipulate her, or worse. Kale turned instantly. Every trace of grief vanished. The father remained. And the king, prepare the army. His voice shook the room. No one hesitated. No one questioned. Warriors moved immediately. Cassian drew his spear. Rowan grabbed his sword. The sanctuary erupted into action. Because now this wasn't about bloodlines, or thrones, or ancient secrets. It was about a child caught in the middle of a war. Kale looked toward Leora. The emotion in his eyes was impossible to miss. Gratitude, pain, respect, and something deeper beginning to grow. Something neither of them were ready to name. Yet. Then he asked the question that mattered most. What is her name? Leora smiled through tears. A small smile. A proud smile. The smile of someone who had loved a child with her whole heart. Aurora. Kale repeated it softly, as though memorizing every syllable. Aurora. And then a scout burst into the sanctuary, his face white with terror. They're moving. Kale turned sharply. Who? The scout swallowed. The High Council. Fear swept through the room. Where? The scout looked directly at Leora, then at Kale, and delivered the final blow. They're taking Aurora to the capital. The room went silent, because everyone understood exactly what that meant. The council wasn't hiding anymore. They were setting a trap, and waiting for Aurora's father to walk into it. Chapter 10. The capital had never looked more dangerous. Thousands of soldiers filled the streets. Council banners hung from every tower. Every gate was guarded. Every rooftop watched. The city looked prepared for war. Because it was. Leora stood beside Kale on a ridge overlooking the capital. Dawn painted the sky gold. Neither had slept. Neither could. Aurora was inside those walls, waiting, alone, and every minute mattered. Rowan approached. The army is ready. Kale nodded. Cassian stepped forward next. The wardens are in position. Another nod. Everything was prepared. Everything except the hardest part. Aurora. The little girl had no idea what was happening. No idea why she had been taken. No idea her father was coming. Leora's chest tightened painfully. She remembered teaching Aurora to walk, teaching her to read, bandaging scraped knees, comforting nightmares. Watching her grow, every memory felt precious and terrifying because she might lose her. The thought nearly broke her. A warm hand touched her shoulder. Leora looked up. Kale. His silver eyes held something new now. Not distance, not uncertainty. Trust. You brought her this far. His voice was quiet, steady. I'll bring her home. Emotion caught in Leora's throat. For a moment neither looked away. The connection between them felt different. Stronger. Built through pain, through sacrifice, through truth. Not love, not yet. But the foundation of it. The kind that lasts. Then a horn sounded. The battle had begun. The capital erupted into chaos. Wardens struck from the eastern walls. Kale's army advanced from the south. Council forces scrambled. The city became a battlefield within minutes. Steel clashed. Howls echoed. Smoke filled the air. But Kale had only one goal. Aurora. Everything else was secondary. He fought through the palace gates like a storm. Rowan beside him. Cassian beside him. Leora close behind. Every step brought them nearer. Every step carried greater danger. Then they reached the throne hall. And stopped. Because Aurora was there. The little girl stood in the center of the room, exactly as Leora remembered. Dark curls, bright silver eyes, small but fearless. Relief slammed into Leora so hard her knees almost gave out. Aurora! The child turned. Her face lit up instantly. Mama! She ran forward. Straight into Leora's arms. Leora held her tightly. Unable to stop the tears. Unable to stop anything. Aurora buried her face against her shoulder. I missed you. Leora laughed through tears. I missed you too. For one beautiful moment, everything felt right. Then, applause echoed through the hall. Slow, mocking, cruel. Everyone turned. Seraphine stepped from the shadows, elegant as ever, smiling as ever, terrifying as ever. The daughter of the High Council leader, the woman who had humiliated Leora months ago, the woman who had helped start everything. Touching. Her smile widened. Truly touching. Kale stepped forward. "Where is your father?" Seraphine laughed. "Running." The answer surprised everyone. Even Kale. "The council is finished." Her smile faded slightly. "They know it." The realization spread quickly. The army outside. The wardens. The evidence. The surviving bloodline. The council had lost. And they knew it. Then why stay? Why remain? Leora suddenly understood. And horror followed. "She's not here to win." Kale looked toward her. Leora's blood ran cold. "She's here for revenge." Seraphine's smile returned. A terrible smile. The smile of someone with nothing left to lose. Exactly. Then she revealed the knife. Everything happened at once. Rowan shouted. Kale moved. Aurora screamed. Seraphine lunged, straight toward the child. Leora didn't think. Didn't hesitate. She simply reacted, throwing herself between them. The knife struck. Pain exploded through her side. Aurora's scream echoed through the hall. Kale's roar followed. The next seconds blurred. Guards tackled Seraphine. Rowan disarmed her. The threat ended. But Leora barely noticed, because she was falling. The floor rushed upward. Darkness threatened the edges of her vision. Then, strong arms caught her. Kale. Always Kale. Fear filled his face. Raw fear. The sight shocked her. Because this wasn't a king looking down. It was a man terrified of losing someone. Leora, his voice shook. "No," she tried to smile. Failed. Aurora appeared beside them, crying, "Mama." Leora reached out weakly. Aurora grabbed her hand, holding it tightly, as if refusing to let go. The little girl looked terrified. And suddenly Leora realized something. The child wasn't afraid for herself. She was afraid of losing family. Again. That thought hurt more than the wound. Then Kale spoke. His voice rough, broken. "Stay with me." Leora looked at him, really looked, and finally saw what had been growing between them. Respect, trust, understanding, love. Slowly, patiently, honestly. Built through every hardship they had endured together. The realization made her smile. This time successfully. "You found her." Kale's eyes filled with emotion. "No," his voice cracked. "You did." Silence settled briefly around them. Then healers rushed forward. The wound wasn't fatal, painful, dangerous, but survivable. And for the first time in what felt like forever, hope won. 3 months later, the kingdom looked different. Council corruption had been exposed. The surviving conspirators were gone. The wardens had returned as protectors. The truth about the Lunaris bloodline was finally known. No more lies, no more secrets, no more hiding. Peace had come at last. Leora stood on a palace balcony overlooking the city. The sunset painted everything gold. Footsteps approached behind her. She smiled before turning. Aurora, the little girl, practically launched herself into her arms. Leora laughed, catching her easily. "Careful." Aurora grinned. "Never." A second voice joined them. "She's definitely your daughter." Leora turned. Kale stood nearby, smiling. Actually smiling. The sight still surprised her. Aurora immediately pointed. "See?" Kale sighed dramatically. "I regret teaching her sarcasm." Aurora laughed. Leora laughed too. For a moment everything felt simple. Happy. Normal. The kind of peace they had fought so hard to earn. Then Aurora looked between them. A suspicious smile spreading across her face. The exact kind of smile that usually caused trouble. "What?" Kale already sounded worried. Aurora pointed at him, then at Leora, then delivered the statement that made both adults freeze. "You should get married." Silence. Instant silence. Aurora nodded confidently. Problem solved. Leora burst out laughing. Kale looked genuinely defeated, which somehow made it even funnier. Aurora crossed her arms. "What?" Nobody answered. Because neither adult trusted themselves to. The child rolled her eyes dramatically, then jumped down and ran away, leaving them alone. Again. The sunset glowed around them. Soft, warm, peaceful. For a while neither spoke. Then Kale finally broke the silence. She's impossible. Leora smiled. She learned from the best. Kale laughed quietly. The sound felt rare, precious. Then he looked at her. The same way he had looked at her in the servant corridor months ago. Only different now. No mystery, no confusion, no distance. Just certainty. And affection. Leora. Her heartbeat quickened. Yes? Kale stepped closer. Not as a king, not as an alpha, simply as a man. A man who trusted her completely. A man who respected her. A man who loved her. You spent 8 years protecting my daughter. Emotion filled her chest. You would have done the same. Yes. The answer came immediately, without hesitation. Because it was true. Kale smiled. Then gently took her hand. Thank you. The simple words meant more than any grand speech ever could. Leora squeezed his hand. And for the first time in years, everything felt right. Not because the past was perfect, not because the pain was gone, but because they had survived it, together. Below them, the kingdom celebrated a future finally free from lies. Behind them, Aurora's laughter echoed through the palace, and ahead of them waited something neither had expected to find. A home, a family, and a love worth fighting for. The end.